Do you struggle with consistency in your pool game? Do you feel like you're one bad shot or one bad lead from breaking through and don't know why you keep missing that last shot? Do you hear the term pre-shot routine and have no idea what it means? Hey friends, Adam here. This is the video I've been talking about, my shooting system. Now, you may have heard terms like shooting system, pre-shot routine, post-shot routine, during shot routine. I'm gonna call this the shooting system, but assume that when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about things like the pre-shot routine and like everything else. Before I start, a disclaimer, I am not a certified instructor. I am not an instructor. I've helped people along the ways, along the years, but I do not consider myself someone who would be considered a professional instructor. I first had my lesson back when I was 18 or 19 years old with Jerry Briesath of Madison, Wisconsin, and I am a current student of Mark Wilson out of St. Louis. Those two I owe 100% of the content in this video, with maybe we'll say 99% and 1% of what I do. Now, when I go through the things in this video, it may not work for everyone. This is what works for me, and this is what I found works for me. But if you don't have a place to start from, this is what I'm gonna recommend to you starting in this video. Another disclaimer, I've had 2 neck surgeries. My neck is not good. I do not have the range of motion of most people. As a result, my stance and my head are probably a little bit different than optimal. My stance is probably a little wider than it needs to be if I could move my neck, and my head sometimes a little bit tilted, not perfectly on center. Do what I say, not as I do in this video here. Hope you enjoy it. I'm hoping to enlighten people into things like those questions that I asked. Do you keep missing? Are you familiar with the saying that I've seen in a lot of groups, Facebook groups and things, I can make 6 or 7 balls, but I can never run out. Chances are it doesn't have anything to do with your pattern play. It's mostly about technique, and it's how you get there or don't get there in this case. Another thing before I start, and I'll hopefully mention this later on, no shooting system is gonna work without practice. So you can't just take the things that I do in this video, go out to your next league night and try to implement them and have them work, and then come back and say, hey Adam, it didn't work, I tried it at a league. Well, this is something you need to put time into. I would say an hour a day for 2 or 3 weeks doing this, and it'll become second nature and become muscle memory. It's not gonna work without practice. In fact, a lot of people think they practice, and I can tell you right now, you don't practice. If your first shot on the table is racking for someone or breaking yourself, that's not practice, that's playing. Now you can still play and have fun and do pool and work on stuff, but practice is really practice. It's one-on-one with you and the table. So I like to ask people, what is the #1 goal of a pool player? In fact, pause the video right now. I'm gonna go get a drink in a second, and go answer in the comments down below, answer what your idea is of what the #1 goal for a pool player is. And don't worry, you can always go and edit it when it turns out that you're wrong. So leave me a comment, I'll be right back. Drink of the day is Gatorade Zero, for those who ask. I know I've gotten some flack for not announcing that in every video. So when I ask this question, I get all sorts of answers. The #1 goal of a pool player is to win games. Sure, wrong. #1 goal of a pool player is to make balls. Make the ball in the pocket. That sounds good. That's not right. That's completely wrong. And I've heard more creative answers like, oh, well, when you're at the table, you want to either make the ball or leave your opponent safe. And when you're not at the table, you want to make your opponent miss. Yeah, that's wrong. #1 goal of a pool player is to shoot the cue stick straight through the ball in a straight line. Leave it 3 to 6 inches past the cue ball in a straight line. I'll demonstrate. That's it. Shoot the ball straight. Shoot the cue stick straight. Shouldn't say the ball. There are times where people can say, oh, well, what about a masse shot? What about a jump shot? You're still shooting the cue stick straight. Now a jump shot, you're not going to be following it through the 3 to 6 inches through the table, but that is your job as a pool player in 99% of your shots, is to shoot the cue stick straight, leave the tip of your cue 3 to 6 inches past the cue ball in a straight line. I want to go through some quick things about stance. And this is one of the things when people have asked me, hey Adam, why don't you teach? Currently at the point in my life, I don't know enough about other people's stances and how other people's bodies, positions, especially left-handed, right-handed, work enough to teach a stance. Now, I've worked on it with people over time, but I feel if you need work, go to a certified instructor. That said, your standard stance, and I'm going to do it from over here so that we can, it can look, you can see it from the camera side. In fact, what I'll first do, I'll just line up on the cue ball on the dot here. You want to have your body, and especially this arm, and the cue stick in a straight line. So let's say I'm just shooting the cue ball up and down the table. My elbow and my arm here, and I'll draw a picture, I'll draw a line on the table. It should be in a straight line. So when I shoot the cue ball, it's going in a straight line, which that wasn't, but that's okay. I put some spin on it that I didn't mean to. Now what I'll show you here is how I get into my stance and how the stance really works. I start out by looking at the line of sight on the cue ball. What I'm doing, I pivot my right foot a little bit so that kind of my right toe is pretty much in line with where I'm shooting. And I do adjust it a little bit as I get down in my stance. I step into the shot. Now, this arm should be, when you're at the cue ball, and this is hard to show and look at the same time, but my right arm here should be at a 90-degree angle down. If it's not, you need to move your hand up or down the cue. Depending on your bridge length, depending on the shot you're taking, if I'm shooting a really touchy shot where I need to put my bridge hand way up, I'm gonna choke up on the cue so that I have kind of like a mini cue here, from here to here. If I'm doing something with a longer bridge or maybe I can't reach, then I go way back and I'm holding the cue back here. I don't want to get too much into this because that could be a completely different video, but I just wanted to go over that real quick. That's going to come into play when we go through the steps in this shooting system. So question and answer time again. How do you aim? And at what process during your shooting do you aim? Again, pause the video. I'll go get a drink real quick, or you can just wait for me to get a drink. Leave me a comment below and write in how you aim and what parts of either your body or the cue or the room or the universe are used in aiming. So I'll tell you one thing, you're probably all wrong. I'm just gonna guess, but maybe you're right. Your chin is the #1 thing used to aim. Now, how is that a thing? Well, when you're standing and looking at the shot, so I'm looking at this, it's straight in, I know because I set up the little donut stickers. But when I'm aiming a shot, I'm looking at the line and I'm using my body. My feet are kind of pointed straight towards it, but I'm really using my chin. Now watch as I step into the line of the shot, where my chin goes. And I'm not gonna put my bridge hand down. When I'm stepping into the shot, now that looks weird because my finger is on my chin, but watch my chin when I step into the shot. It stays pretty much down. Jerry Briesath has an old video that was pretty funny where he does this little thing about his chin and he kind of holds his chin in place and dances around. He said, look, my chin's always there. I can't really do that, I'm not that coordinated, but that's really how you aim. Now, it's going to be a bit different if you are left eye dominant versus right eye dominant versus center dominant. That's a completely different subject. Actually, Dr. Dave Billiards has a really good video on how to find your center of vision, but you are still using your chin as your main aiming. Now, you may, if you're severely right eye dominant, you may step over the cue and your head may shift, which I'm not, I'm center dominant. But that's gonna be up to everyone to find their own center of vision and do what works best for you. There are right-handed players that are left eye dominant, there are left-handed players that are right eye dominant, and vice versa. Just matters what your center of vision is and what you need to do for yourself. The other question I had, when is aiming done? Aiming is done when you're standing up. Let's say I have shot like this, how many times have you seen people do this? I'm exaggerating here, of course, but aiming is not done down on the ball. Your aiming is done while standing up. And you should be doing all of your aiming and all of your sighting standing up and then stepping into the ball. That is going to be crucial because once you're down on the shot, you don't want to be moving anywhere. You want to have your everything lined up in a straight line so you can shoot forward. Now, people ask me, what aiming system do you use? I don't. There is an aiming system called the ghost ball, where let's say I'm shooting this ball into that pocket. I'm going to imagine an imaginary ball that's right here, maybe. That looks about right. And I'm going to try to place the cue ball where that is, and that's where I'm hitting the ball. Sure, that does work, but for the most part, and most pros will admit they don't have an aiming system either. It's all feel, it's all natural, and it's all practiced, what you've learned and how you've learned to aim over the years. Now, if you need an aiming system, and there's a whole bunch of weird stuff out there, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's going to be more natural to do what you're used to based on your repetition and your practice and your own work. So that said, I will sometimes, and actually most of the time, you'll see me look at this, and let's say I had a ball, let's say after the 8 ball, I have to shoot the 10 ball. You will see me in a lot of my videos, look at this, and then I'll go over and I'll look at the 10 ball and I'll look at this line I need on the 10 ball. I'm not doing that to find like a point on the 8 ball that I have to hit the cue ball on. I've heard people would do weird things with, like, you can use the lights as a guide system for where to hit the, none of that. I've also heard, people, and this one sounds a little bit better, they draw kind of an imaginary line between the back of the pocket through the cue ball through here. That's fine to think about it like that, but really, you're using feel and you're using your natural abilities to be able to figure out how to aim. You can use the cue stick as a guide. I've seen people do this. Vitaly Patsura used to do kind of something like this, which is weird to me because if I'm looking through, I see 2 cue sticks. If I'm looking right at the cue stick, I see 2 balls. So it's kind of weird for me. But you want to step into the line of the shot and maintain your aim. Now, I will show you in a second why that's important. So I mentioned I take lessons from Mark Wilson. He has a 6-step process. This is mostly based on his six steps, the things that I'm going to go over here. I'm just going into much more detail in each. If aiming and taking care of aim is step 1, then dropping into the shot is step 2. So we're aiming, we have our line of aim, we're dropping into the shot, maintaining that line of aim, and look where my Q-tip is. How many times have you seen it? You've seen it on my channel. People do this. How do you have any idea what your aim line is if you're already moving your cue and you're already moving your body when you get in? This is going to be very important for verifying your aim and your timing is stepping into the shot with the cue stick at the cue ball. Now, in this step, if you step in here and you're a little off, get up. Do not adjust. You can adjust micro, like we're talking 1 millimeter, if at most, adjustments. But if I step into the shot and I'm here, and I'll draw a line through here to show how off I am not going to go and adjust it to go that. That's too far, too much. You're going to get yourself into trouble doing that. And you wind up doing the thing a lot of players do where they twist their arm at the last second or put some speed to try to adjust because they know they're off aim and they're just too lazy to get up. So we're stepping into the shot, tip of the cue at the cue ball. Do not be afraid to hit the cue ball. And this is where practice comes in. You're not going to go to your league night tomorrow night and go, oh, I learned what Adam did. Oh, this doesn't work. I just fouled. Well, you need to practice it. You need to get, in fact, do this, just this process, get back up, start over again. Do that 10 times on the ball. It's not very many. You'll get the better feel of where the Q-tip needs to go. You will foul occasionally, 1 out of 1 million, 1 out of 100,000, and whatever it is. But You'll fall much more starting out, but you'll get better at it and it'll become second nature. So in this process, there's gonna be a couple times where you should check yourself and get up and start over. And this is the first time. So like I said, if you're coming down in a shot and it's not on, you get up, you start over. If everything's on and everything feels right, at this point, we go to step 3. Step 3 is what I call the practice strokes or the warm-up strokes. I've heard people call them aiming strokes, and I want to be very, very, very clear. You are not aiming during this process. This is to get your timing down, to get your speed of your shot down, and to get your arm loose. Now, if you're not aimed, this could be the second chance you get to start over again. So, and number of practice strokes too. Let me go into this before I step into this. Mark recommends 3 to 4 smooth, straight practice strokes. Now, my number's 3. I have done different things. I have done different types of strokes. My number I'm sticking to is 3. You've seen pros do this. Or just this. That's a completely different system. Different teachers will teach different things, and this is what I'm teaching. Now, what I said at the beginning, this may not work for you. Not everything's going to work for everyone. Somebody may have their own perfect stroke that works. This is if you have troubles with a pre-shot routine or shooting system and want a guideline and want somewhere to at least start. Once you get this down, you can experiment what works for you. Now I know what you're gonna say. Efren didn't use 2 strokes. Bustamante doesn't use 2 straight strokes. Sure, if you practice your stroke, no matter how bad it is, 8 to 10 hours a day, you can do whatever you want. Your body is gonna force itself to do what you're doing. And I know for a fact, Efren has been asked if he could go over and fix his shooting system, if he would, and he said yes, but it's too late. And this is when he was probably in his 50s or 60s, but he realizes his stroke is not optimal. It's beautiful, it's perfect, but it's not the greatest looking stroke. There's a lot of movement. So that said, here is how I recommend doing practice strokes. So we step into the ball, we're at cue stick at tip of the ball, or tip of the cue at the ball. And we do 1, I'm doing this purposely slowly, 2, 3. You can do, if you're doing, let's say we're doing a touchy shot, where the cue is much closer, you're gonna do those 1, 2, 3. What you're also doing during these strokes is you're getting your timing and your vision right. Now, it's gonna be hard to explain this as I go, but I am adjusting my vision from the cue ball to the object ball to the cue ball to the object ball, back and forth with each practice stroke. So I'm doing 1, and I'm looking back and forth constantly between the cue ball and the object ball as I do my 3 strokes. So, we've learned here, 3 to 4 practice strokes, uniform, don't do the little micro strokes. The most important thing in this step is you are not aiming. This is not the time to aim. Now, if you are here, you need to be there. That's okay to adjust. Now, you probably didn't even see anything move on this, but if you come down into the shot and you are here and you need to be here, that's too much. Get up and start over again. All right, this seems like a lot. You're probably like, Adam, just shoot the ball already. I understand all too well, but this will change your game, I guarantee it. Step 4 is pause at the cue ball and commit to the stroke. So this is going to be your final go or no go. Remember I said before, there's a couple times during this shooting system, you can choose whether or not you're good and get up if you're not. So we have our first step in. If we're not good here, we get up. We have our 3 practice strokes, and we pause at the cue ball. We decide, am I aimed correctly? And I want to stand up because it's hard to talk on my neck turn. Is my aim correctly? Is my tip position correct? and I'll get into that in a second. Is everything feeling right? Did somebody walk past my line of vision and it threw me off and I looked over there? Did the worst song ever on the jukebox come on and now I can't deal with it because it's piercing into my brain? Anything feels off, this is your last chance to get up and start over again. Now, tip position, we didn't really talk about that. When you step into the position of the shot, you are stepping in using the English that you want to use. Follow, draw, or side spin. You are not stepping in and then going, okay, yeah, I need some left, so I'll change it. You want to really step, I mean, you can change it a little bit, but you really want to have that decision committed and step in and say, okay, I'm going to use upper left here, and all your practice strokes are at the tip position of where you're hitting it on the cue ball. I'm shooting center ball, you know, a little bit below center for a stop shot here, but this is kind of crucial to make sure your stroke goes. Now you'll say, but Adam, Bustamante, I know, and there are some players, Fedor Gorst aims, and I won't shoot this, but he aims center ball, and if on a draw stroke, on his last follow through, it's when he pitches, he actually drops his elbow a little bit and pitches his cue stick lower. I'm not recommending that. I recommend just doing the easiest way to do it, which is the most simple and the most straightforward. So this is your last chance to stop. Once you are committed and you say, I'm aimed up, I got my 2, 3 practice strokes, I'm 100% ready to go, that is your final point of commitment. If you are ready to shoot, we'll see the next step. So step 5, I'm calling this the ladies and gentlemen step, and I'll explain why in a second. This is no more thinking. The time for commitment is come and gone. The time to make your mind up, the time to do something different, that's come and gone. If you are this far into the shooting system, you are 100% committed. And the main point of this shooting system is you want to not be afraid of missing the ball, you want to be afraid of putting on a quality stroke. So I'm going to go through this all over again because that's what this is. Step into the ball, verify your aim. 1, 2, 3. Now with a slow backswing to forcing transition, you want to do a slow backswing and accelerate through the cue ball. Now the reason I say ladies and gentlemen, this came directly from Mark Wilson. It may have come from Jerry Briesath before him, but ladies and gentlemen is a good phrase to say in your head for timing on the backswing through foreswing. Now you're doing a slow backswing, but you want to accelerate through the shot. So again, do this over again. We have 1, 2, 3. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about 1.5 to 2 seconds from the time you start back to the time you accelerate through. If you want to record yourself and watch it back frame by frame or time it and things like that, that's what your timing should roughly be. The slower the backswing, the better. Now, you may say, hey, Adam, Chris Smelling pauses at the backswing. He doesn't pause at the foreswing. Sure. Christina Tkach used to as well. I don't know if she still does. I haven't seen one of her matches in a while. But you almost always notice commentators will commentate on that because that's their job as commentators, to commentate on stuff. And they will say, he has a very pronounced pause on his backswing. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, if you've seen, what's his name from Florida, Anthony Maglino, his stroke, and I won't hit the cue ball here, he does almost like that, but it works for him. He's the highest rated player in Florida next to maybe Donnie Mills. If you do it 8 to 10 hours a day, you can do anything, but I'm guaranteeing almost no one who's watching this video is practicing 8 to 10 hours a day, and if you are and you're still needing this advice, you should see a certified instructor, and I don't mean that as an insult. So there are players that will pause at the backswing. Let's do my practice swings here, because you don't want to take shortcuts. They'll pause at the backswing, but what I found is it almost makes you accelerate through in a weird, non-smooth way. I would much rather have you pause at the foreswing and go back and forth, then pause at the backswing, or pause at both is probably worse because it takes your timing away and it takes just your rhythm away. Now, again, Efren, yes, I know Efren has a different stroke. Efren does the same amount of, he does different warm-up strokes or practice strokes, but then he does 2 back and forth. So he'll do back and shoot. Dr. Dave did a video on it a while ago and said he was gonna practice around with it, but I don't see him doing it today. If you have a talent like Efren, you do what works for you. If you don't, you do what works for everyone else. So Adam, you said there were 6 steps. I sure did. This is step 6. But Adam, we already shot the ball and we already made it. What's step 6? Is that to look at your next shot? No, it is not. Step 6 is to evaluate your tip placement on the table. Now, why would we do that? We go through our system. We're lined up. 1, 2, 3. Our final commit point. We are ready to go, ladies and gentlemen. Now, there's a couple of reasons we do this. Now, I'm going to stand up and leave my cue here because, again, it's easier for me to talk with my neck. Apologies for that. I'm trying to keep my cue straight. There are a couple of reasons why we do this. One, the most important is to make sure the cue stick is straight. We want to make sure that cue stick shot straight through 3 to 6 inches past the cue ball like I talked about at first. Another reason, how many times have you seen this? A person, maybe even yourself, they get down, maybe they have everything perfect. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I missed. You see what I did? Now, I exaggerated it there, but I stood up. I see so many people that are in some kind of race to beat the cue ball out of the pocket. I don't understand what the thinking is. Now, sure, it's cool to look cool because you want to show off for your friends how cool you are, but it doesn't really help. The point that I found, I mean, the main point of step 6 is to make sure your cue stick goes in a straight line and ends up where you need it to be and that you shot straight. So if you miss the ball, you still have an evaluation point. Like, let's say I missed, and instead of my Q-tip being here, let's say it's here. Well, I know I missed by a 1/4 inch there. That would make sense why I missed the shot. Another important reason, though, and I just showed it, is to keep your head down. If you have any head movement in your shot, I've seen people, and I won't shoot at the ball here. I've seen people that right in their back swing and foreswing do this, and they're kind of in motion with the line of the shot. But any movement of your head is going to increase the chance that you miss by exponentially. It may not seem as important, but it's really essential to get your brain and your body synced so that you don't move during the shot, because if you move, you're going to miss. Now, there's certain people who have gotten it figured out and gotten, oh, I can get this to work for me all the time. But those are the same people who are going, oh, man, I should really be running out more. I always miss like 5 or 6 shots in my run. Well, you're running around the table and you're jumping up and you've kind of taught yourself how to do it that way, but it's not going to be as consistent as you think. So I'm serious, no movement at all. Now, as I said, it's harder for me to do it with my personal neck issues, but after you do your 3 practice strokes, you should be able to stay in this position for a while. And then you do your ladies and gentlemen. Now that was off. My cue stick is a little, you probably can't tell from the video, but it is just a hair, like a 1/16 of an inch off that straight line. That's probably why I missed it. I made the ball, but I missed it to the pocket. I hit it to that side of the pocket. It's very important to be able to stay down, very important to evaluate your tip, especially if you are practicing shots. So one thing that I haven't talked about that I've been meaning to talk about, and I think this video is a good place for it, is thinking. How many times have you done this? Where should I get on the 9? Should I follow it forward? Maybe I should put a little top on it to follow it, or should I put draw on it? Should I put some left to maybe scoot it off? Should I bank the 8? As I just talked about in the shooting system, there is no extraneous thought in there. You have your specific goals. You are aiming standing up, stepping into the ball, verifying aim, 3 practice strokes to get your timing and everything figured out. You're committing, and when you're ready to the commit point, you are no longer thinking. You are not going, oh, I'm a little bit off, so maybe I'll put some left spin on it to adjust the aim. You're not doing anything like that. All of your thinking at the table should be done standing up. So let's say I'm doing this. Oh, you know what? I should probably follow this to play the 9 on the side. Stand up. Do it over. Part of my thinking process is to walk around the table and look at the shots. So I know the 8 ball is straight in because I set it up that way, but then I'm looking around at the 9, and in rotation games like 8 ball or like 9 ball, 10 ball, even in 8 ball, if you have a pattern figured out, which you should, I'm thinking about how I shoot the 8 ball to get a leave on the 9 ball to get on the 10 ball. And in some cases, if there was an 11 ball or if I'm on the 7, 8, 9, and 10, I need to look at all 4. So for this, I can play a stop shot on the 8, you leave the cue ball here, and then I can just kind of stun back for the 10. All this thinking I'm doing standing up. I'm not doing anything sitting down at all, or sitting down. I'm not doing anything down in the shot at all. And I'm doing this on purpose to see if anyone notices. But I'm gonna look at all 3 of these shots, and you'll see me in a lot of my videos go and look at the angle of the 9 in the pocket. I'm not really looking at the angle, I'm looking at the pocket line. And I talk about this in a lot of my videos. I'm looking at this line, and I wanna find out which side I wanna be on this line. Now, for this particular shot, I wanna be on this side of the pocket line, because if I'm on this side of it, the cue ball is gonna go that way, which is going away from the 10. That's what I'm looking at when I'm looking at the secondary shot. Or the third dairy. I don't think that's the word. So in this case, walk through a couple shots here. And that one I already moved, so I'm gonna stand back up. Get my line set up. 1, 2, 3. Ladies and gentlemen. Another thing I wanted to mention, on your final backswing, leave the cue as flat as possible. Now you're gonna have a natural pendulum motion swinging through the cue ball, but on your last backswing, keep that flat as possible. So here I'm just gonna do kind of a stun draw, and I'm aiming for about here, somewhere in this kind of general area. Same thing. Lined up. 1, 2, 3. Ladies and gentlemen. And I'm pretty good on the 10 ball. In fact, I won't even shoot the 10 ball. I'll show you another shot. This is kind of incorporating a lot of things. Now, here I don't have a straight-in shot on the 8. And I'm going a little bit too much into this video in past just the shooting system. I'm kind of going into some position play and things like that, but it all kind of comes into effect. So I'm looking at the line in the 8 that I need to play. Now again, I'm not looking at a point on the 8 ball itself. I'm looking at the line and I'm visualizing it. And then I'm looking over here at the 10 ball. Now, what am I doing with this? I haven't mentioned this. This is a piece of chalk, by the way, in case you don't know. I do use Alex Peggy-Line chalk because I have Tatum chalk, but when you drop it on the floor, I don't have to chase it very far. When I drop Tatum on the floor, it's all the way over there. I call this my thinking chalk. And it's also a reset. So you'll see people do this. Do I need more chalk? Did I use any chalk? No, I'm not. What I'm doing is I'm doing a mental reset so that if something felt wrong on the shot, this is the signal to my brain that we're starting over. And my brain forgets everything, hopefully, that I did wrong, and I'm going to now look at this in a different way. If you want to see something kind of amusing, go watch a Hennessy match. Jonathan Pinnegar, his nickname is Hennessy. Watch him, he does this. And he's chalked, I've seen 15 times in one shot before. And he's doing that because he wants to make sure he gets comfortable. Go watch a Kopin match, especially in the early days. I'm shooting this in October of 2025, especially maybe 10 years ago, 2015 or so. He will do this 3 or 4 times before he gets down on the ball and he's settled. All of these are just kind of mental things. And I will do a video on that. In fact, if anyone knows what I'm talking about when I say purple oranges, this kind of comes into play. Think of it as a brain reset. Those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, think I'm completely out of my mind. All right, so I'm gonna be playing the 8 in the corner. I wanna follow it, bottom rail. This is gonna be your left rail and out to the center of the table for the 10. And get down the shot. This does not feel good, so I'm gonna get up and reset. Sometimes I need a full reset. Sometimes I just need to stand back up and get back down on the shot. It all depends. Full disclosure, I've missed this shot 3 or 4 times just in trying to talk it through. Talking and playing is not easy. You wanna be guaranteed a sure way to miss. Talk during your shot. So I'm actually not gonna talk about this. I'm gonna do my whole shooting system. Maybe I'll put something on the screen. Maybe I'll do a voiceover or whatever. I didn't quite get there, but I felt good about the stroke. So the most important thing, again, in this whole thing is to put a good quality stroke on. Now I'm doing my aiming thing, but I have a back cut, which is a harder shot. So I'm visualizing where the 10 ball is gonna go and what line I need to hit the 10, but I'm also visualizing where the cue ball is gonna go. I think I can avoid the scratch by hitting it into the rail, maybe just some topspin to cut the angle off. So I'm gonna do the same thing. All right, so that is really my shooting system. There are 6 defined steps. I'll put something on the screen with the 6 steps that I'm kind of taking from Mark Wilson, but kind of making my own as well. But the most important thing, your job as a pool player, what is it? It is to shoot the cue stick straight and land 3 to 6 inches past the cue ball on your follow through. Is it okay if you have a crappy stroke but you make all your balls? No, no it is not. I don't care if you run out 6 racks in a row with a crappy stroke. Well, actually, if you can run out 6 racks in a row, keep doing what you're doing. But I don't care if you can run a table, because if you can't run a table every time and you're missing easier shots, it's because of your technique. I can almost guarantee it. Do not be afraid to miss balls. What you should be afraid of is not putting on a quality stroke consistently. Every single time. You can run out, you can get up to 8 ball, and you're right here, and you've seen me do it. I'll 1-stroke it. That's really, really bad. I've missed that before. I've missed this shot because I'm so confident when I come up, now granted, I did that on purpose and it was a little bit exaggerated, but everyone's done that. We've seen it on this channel. We saw it in the BS League. You want to be absolutely sure you're doing your shooting system every single time. Do not take it for granted. That is probably the most important thing in this video. Do the same thing every time, every shot. Now, I did talk before about the number of practice strokes, and I was gonna bring that up during that, but I figured I wouldn't muddy the waters. I'll wait to the end. You have seen me do 2 practice strokes. You have seen me do something, you know what, I'll put the cue ball over here so it's easier to see. And when I do the 2 practice strokes, it's the same. I'm just doing 1, 2, and then going forward. You've also seen me do kind of a stutter stroke for the 3rd. 1, 2, kind of 3, and then go. I'm not really convinced that works. What I was trying to do with the 2-stroke is I was trying to force myself to get into the zone. Now the zone is that magical, mystical place that you get when you can't miss. Everything just comes naturally. You see everything goes perfectly, and you're in it. What I was trying to do with the 2 strokes is kind of speed up my process, speed up my brain into getting into that zone. I had mixed results with it. I'm going back to 3 for a while. But I also did it because I had a couple matches with the shot clock. In fact, I may post a link to a playlist of shot clock matches. I can post the BS League if you haven't seen that. That's a fun thing we're doing here with a shot clock. I would stick with 3 right now. You could go to 4. I've seen people do 5 and 6. There was a guy in California he was an over 700 Fargo guy who did like 15 practice strokes on one shot. He made it. It was a hard shot. But, and this actually is one thing that I wanted to bring up. I've mentioned this to Matt R a number of times. So let's say I'm on this 8 ball. It's straight and I know it's straight and I can do my normal routine. I can get down, I can do 3 practice strokes. What happens if I wind up here? Tell me what I'm doing wrong here. This kind of goes back to the thinking. I shouldn't be thinking at all when I'm down on the shot. I should be doing my same shooting routine every time. I've seen people get on a tough shot and they spend more time down on the shot. And I don't know if it's self-doubt, if they're trying to psych themselves up, if they're moving around trying to aim, which that's a huge no-no as we already covered. I would say if you need more time on a tough shot, you spend it by walking around the table. Get everything out. Drop your shoulders, roll your shoulders, take a deep breath. Look at the angle 3-4 times. Now, if you're playing with a shot clock, it's going to be harder to do this. But then, when you get down into the shot, it should be the same thing as always. Now, I hit these balls, obviously. They're not part of the shot, but I just wanted to point that out, that don't spend more time down in the shot because it's a tougher shot. That's actually going to make you miss more often than not. I hate to say it, but that is one of the main reasons people miss money balls. They spend more time on them because they're trying to psych themselves into shooting it or psyching themselves out of shooting it. Another thought, this is what works for me. Again, it's not going to work for everybody. There's going to be things that work for me that don't work for you. There's going to be things that may work for you that won't work for me. That's fine. But if you don't have a system and you don't have anything that you're working on consistently, start here. Go into whatever works for you after that, but at least have some place to start. Because if you go to a certified instructor, you're going to be really surprised when they put the cue ball on the dot. And most instructors use this dot. I just don't because my camera's facing this way. So I created my own dot up here. They're going to put the cue ball on the dot, and they're going to say, shoot the ball into the corner. And you're going to be like, what ball? Like the cue ball. And you're going to get down and shoot the cue ball into the corner, and they're going to spend all day fixing all the issues that you have. If you go into an instructor with a system, at least something that works, they have much more to work on to help you help yourself to get a better player. And on top of that, what works for me may not work for everyone, but if you have something, you have something to rely on, and that's why there's a shooting system. Like, why do you have to do the same things over and over again? Well, let's say you're playing your A game and everything's going perfect. You don't even really think about what's going on. But let's say all of a sudden you're off by just a little bit and things aren't going your way. You overrun a safety, you overrun position, you miss a ball. What you should do, even though the shooting system is going to be muscle memory and going to become something you don't have to think about, you go back to basics. Let's say you lose a match in a tournament, you're on the loser's bracket, and you get a couple minutes to warm up. Set up a shot like this one. This is just cue ball on the dot, 8 balls straight into the corner, and just go through slowly your shooting system. You say, okay, I'm on the ball. Is my aim good? And you may find, oh no, I'm a little bit off today. I wonder if it's my neck. I wonder if it's my leg. Oh, I kind of tweaked my quad the other day. Maybe that's it. Now I'm aimed up. I take my 3 practice strokes. Ladies and gentlemen, and use that as your reset. We talked about reset before. I will do a video separately on resets, and that's going to be one of the things that I talk about that, along with the chalk and along with, I don't know, purple oranges or yellow zebras or something like that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, neither do I, but it'll help. But anyway, there are a number of players. In fact, I saw Scott Frost say maybe 2 years ago, he went down and he did some work with Jerry Briesath, and they went over fundamentals again. It's something that Scott knows how to do. It's not like he doesn't know how to do his, his fundamentals. It's something he does all the time. But maybe he was just moving a little bit differently. Maybe he had a knee injury or a neck injury. Something was just a little bit off and he had to adjust. And now that he's fine and now feeling better, he's still just off a little bit. It really helps having someone to help you look at that. If you can get a mirror set up, or if you can like live stream your stuff and watch back, that's the original reason why I started this channel, is I wanted to look at my play and then come back a month later and see how it improved or see what I was doing wrong, if I'm lined up the wrong way, etc. So let's do a couple shots to kind of close this through. And I want to show you something else, that the reason why having a good stance and good fundamentals and a straight stroke are so important. Now watch what I do. Watch my eyes very closely. I'm set. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna close my eyes. Ladies and gentlemen. Did not open them, made the ball. How did I make the ball if I had my eyes closed? Because my job as a pool player is to shoot my cue stick straight through the cue ball. And if everything's lined up, and everything is in a straight line, and I'm shooting my cue stick straight, I shouldn't have to see. Now, that was a straight in shot. Can I do that on a cut shot? Let's do from this side so you can see. I want to just get my line of vision of what I'm shooting at, because all the aiming is done up here. Now let's say I want to put straight top on it. Close my eyes, ladies and gentlemen. And I followed there because I didn't have my eyes open, but you get the point. If you're shooting your cue stick straight, you should be able to shoot with your eyes closed on your after your last pause through your backswing and foreswing. Now you don't want to move your head. If you move your head, that's going to cause all sorts of problems. But that's kind of my period on the end of this video. Let me know what kind of questions or comments you have. Make sure you do all the YouTube stuff you like. Comment, subscribe, all the other stuff. I've been doing a couple short videos. They've been doing pretty well. They've been bringing up the subscriber count just slightly, but I've been looking forward to doing this video. I'm probably going to refer to it now in every video I do, but I think that's probably important. I think things like this are things that a lot of pool players are lacking. Go into any pool hall, and once you see things like this and know what the right way to do things are, you're going to notice how many people aren't doing the things the right way. And that kind of separates the game of pool from the sport of pool. So again, leave me a comment, leave me a message, let me know what you think. And until next time, I need a little phrase that I say at the end of each video. Until next time, close your eyes and keep shooting. No, that's probably not right. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, have a great day.